ready?
Let's do this.
All right. Quiet on set!
Action.
We only do that in our lives.
Don't forget to do your warm-up.
Quiet on set!
That means you too.
Annie's scared. Look at her.
She should be.
You've been gone for half an hour.
I thought they were recording this whole thing.
We have been recording this whole thing.
Yum.
Oh, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Out About Podcast. I am your host. I'm actually your favorite host, and I would like to thank y'all for voting me that in that competition. But you all know your favorite, your chillest host, Mr. Chile.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you doing?
We're doing fine.
Good. Glad to hear that.
This is not live. They can't hear you.
They can hear me.
Well, they can't respond.
They can respond in the comments down below, or send us a comment on your favorite podcast app. They can certainly respond, and I will read all those comments and respond to those comments as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will too. Just for the record,
Just
Your
for the
Honor,
record.
I will do that as well. Absolutely.
If you tell me how you're doing, I will respond in the appropriate manner.
Yeah. Well, you have to.
You have to.
What else are you gonna do? Just ignore them? You put your hard-earned work into making sure that you put on a quality production,
Right.
and you want to see what the people have to say.
I want to know what they have to say. I really do.
And you know who puts on that production with us?
Our producer, Jerome Barrow. What's up, Jerome?
What's up, everybody?
How is it going over there?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm not gonna lie. You know what? I'm excited. We got a couple guests in the house tonight. A couple that I've known for a while. We'll get into that a little bit later. But first and foremost, I want to welcome everybody to the show, Mr. and Mrs. Matt and Jamie.
Hello, everybody.
How's everyone doing?
You know they're just in live. They can't,
Oh, I know.
they can't respond. You know that,
It's all
right?
right.
Okay. Good.
I'm asking you guys how
I need you to
everyone's doing.
read the comments and respond to when they tell you how they're doing.
He will. He
Yeah,
always
he will.
does.
He always
She
does.
always does. I
Yep.
mean, like, you know, Matt and Jamie, they've been with us for a while. They're really great people. A lot of you have interacted with them over the years, and most of that's positive.
Yeah, mostly positive.
Mostly
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah.
You know, I hear good reviews. Yelp, they have a whole
They have
category
a
in
great
Yelp.
category on Yelp.
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, it has been. It's quite nice. But first, before we get to you, we have to discuss how the week's gone so far. As you can tell, I am very rested and rejuvenated, and I feel great, and it's definitely not been busy at all. Vince, how's it been for you?
You know, it's been insanely busy for me. Just crazy busy. Nonstop getting trucks ready, getting turned. You know, it's been that kind of week, honestly.
It is the spring blitz. It happens. So it's been a couple weird years with COVID and everything being kind of shut down and working and slow and busy and slow and like it's just been odd.
Yeah.
And so we really haven't had this in the past couple of years, but it is very typical in the springtime. We get this huge blitz of people that come in, and it is just everything you can do to get the trucks ready in time. And we are pushing our vendors and we are pushing ourselves. And you know what? I got to say, Delina and Melissa have done an amazing job of lining them up.
They have.
So good that now that the heat is on.
The heat is really on. The heat is on us so bad, we're turning trucks as quickly as we possibly can. Like you said, we're calling our vendors saying, hey, can I get a status update? And they're like, you just dropped the truck off 10 minutes ago. Oh, well, yeah, that job takes longer than 10 minutes.
Right.
So, yeah, we've really been pushing really hard. So I'm a little tired. I mean, not like going to fall asleep on the show again, but I'm a little tired. It's been rough.
Well, you know, I think the coffee and the 5 hour helps with that for sure.
It does.
But and not only that, but just doing something like this, which is fun. It's always a blast, especially when you're here with friends. And the special guests we have for the day are great friends of ours. So I think today's episode is going to be really, really fun. and I hope you as listeners enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you can reach out to Matt and Jamie on their Facebook pages and
Directly.
let them know directly how you feel about them. But other than that, please let us know in in the comments how much you like them. Listen, when we have guests, we always like to support them. So if you do see them on Facebook, shout them out. Let them know, hey, you enjoyed them on the podcast or on the YouTube, however you're watching it. I'm sure it'll mean a lot to them, and it means a lot to us that you take care of our guests that way. Senor Jerome, how, fourth out, have you been?
We've just discussed this. I'm doing good.
Yeah, but you didn't give us any juicy gossip.
You know, it's just been another day. I'm editing like crazy and just trying to stay busy.
Yeah, but you came in a little, what's going on? We'd like to help you.
There's nothing you could do.
Maybe
a Jer Bear intervention.
Maybe you've heard of us. We're sponsored by worserhelp.com.
This goes back to a question that I asked like on a previous podcast, like raise, assistant,
What?
raise or assistant. That would be wonderful.
I don't understand how one has to do with the other.
I don't get it either. I really don't.
I said or.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as your consigliere, I
Senor?
suggest you take that under advisement and not give a response here on the show.
All
Take
right.
that under advisement, think about it before, and respond in the appropriate forum, which is not the show. That's just my consigliere advice.
Thank you.
Jerry,
Let's get into
the
it
answer
now.
is no.
So, you do a wonderful job, and we appreciate you every week. The people that don't know, behind the scenes, Jerry is editing these podcasts, and we're doing a lot of recording. I don't know that you understood how much it was going to be once you came over here and did this. He is doing our podcast twice. Right now, we're doing it twice a week, trying to catch up. And we're also doing the lives once a month, and we're also doing other people's podcasts and that you're helping with. On top of you're shooting videos of truck tours, you're shooting videos of how things on your truck work, so that people have references in case they're curious. Like, hey, I don't know how to do this. You can just pull a little video up and watch it. And you're helping with the website. You redesigned the website and rebuilt it. And of course, as soon as you did it, several members of my staff hated it and crapped all over it. And so you've had to go through and rebuild, adjust, and everything. I jest about that. Everybody, we talked about this last week, everybody within the Hyfield group does a really good job of really wanting to push to greatness, right? We know it's not attainable, but we can certainly try really hard to get to it. And so when any of us do something and it's like, hey, we can do it better, or hey, we want this, we're encouraged to speak our minds. So you've gotten some feedback that's been, how do I put it? It's been critical, but not criticism. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Do you feel that way?
Constructive criticism.
That's it. That's the word I was looking for, constructive criticism. And it has been quite the adventure. I mean, like, when do you sleep?
I don't know. I think I just sit at my computer editing and doze off, and then I wake up and all of a sudden everything's done.
Everything's done. Nice.
Yeah.
I will
He
say,
sleep edits.
I believe that. I will say the nice thing is whenever you go to Jerry's house, 24/7, there is a pot of coffee on, and it's usually fresh.
Amen.
I mean, at my house, we have the Keurig machine and we have an espresso. So it's like, you want an espresso, you want a Keurig, or a cup of coffee, we can make you one of the Keurig. It's on demand. At his place, that won't do. You'd have a line waiting for it. So he always has a pot ready.
We just realized we buy the big bags from like Costco, and usually we do like Instacart or something like that because Costco is kind of far away from our house and we don't like going over there and fighting the traffic. So we'll just do an Instacart, have it delivered. And we have found that me and Don, we're going through on average 3 pounds of coffee in a matter of like a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Wow.
Like we're doing on average at least 2 to 3 pots a day.
So when I buy my Nespresso pods, it's 50 to a box. I don't drink espresso every day, so I had an automatic with Amazon once a quarter send me a new box. Like a month and 10 days in, I completely ran out, and I'm like, oh, this isn't gonna work. So I went online to reorder it. They're sold out. I'm like, of course.
Yeah.
So I found, you ever done this where you go online and you like find a company that has what you're selling from, but it definitely looks sketchy?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to order this, but I'm definitely putting it on a credit card that I know I can get my money back on in case this is a scam, because I'm not positive I'm getting what I ordered. Spoiler alert, it actually was exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's not a scam, and I got my coffee and I got my espresso in the morning. But man, for a couple of weeks, I was like, oof, this is rough. I love, my routine is go upstairs, my bedroom's on the second floor, so I go there, take a shower, get everything, all the stuff in the morning, go downstairs, go to my coffee maker, make an espresso. I take my daily pills, my vitamins, that kind of thing. And then when that espresso's done, I just take it, I shoot it, and I put it directly in the dishwasher. And sometimes while I'm waiting on it to be to brew, I will actually go ahead and empty my dishwasher and everything. So it's just like the day, like that's my routine every single morning.
So you need to... Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. So without that Nespresso, I've just felt like, what am I doing with my life?
You need to come over. You haven't been over to the house in a little bit.
It has been a hot minute.
Especially since we got our brand new coffee pot.
I've just been waiting on an invite.
Well, you're welcome. Absolutely, all of you are welcome. But you do need to come over and let us make you a good cup of coffee, because I have noticed that with this new pot, it truly does make a difference. It is the Specialty Coffee Association certified. It brews at the perfect temperature. It is way better than Nespresso or Keurig could ever do.
What company is it?
Breville.
Oh, well, okay. I got this new car, y'all. It rides so smooth. It's really nice. It is pure luxury. What brand is it? Bentley.
I'm starting to get worried that Melissa's going to watch this now and want a Breville, because now that she's working from home, I'm wondering if I need to up our monthly Amazon coffee purchase, because she likes her coffee.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if now that she's at home, she's going to need more coffee.
Oh, it makes
Probably.
a huge difference.
No Breville. That's not what I'm saying, Jerry. No Breville. Just more coffee beans.
How about a bun?
No, the Mr. Coffee's going to work just fine for her. Trust me.
Oh, listen, Mr. Coffee wears out over time.
Mr. Coffee can get replaced. I can replace the Mr. Coffee like 15 times for the cost of the Breville.
I understand that, but the bun. The bun is great. So, have you ever had a bun?
No, I've never had a bun. Only when they make them, they have them, the commercial ones at the restaurants.
So, my grandma, all my life growing up, we'd go to her house. She always drank Maxwell House of Folgers. So, judge like you want to. I did. And so, but she had a bun. I didn't know that buns keep water hot. So, when you're ready to make coffee, it's immediate making coffee.
Yeah.
And then it just fills the reservoir up once it's done and gets that water hot. So you're not waiting on water to heat up. It is extremely fast. And it's awesome. I loved it. Now, I will say this. As soon as that went out, she bought a Mr. Coffee, because that speed's not necessarily worth it. But it is super cool that it can do that.
I'm curious. I have a question.
All right.
Jerry, now that you have this Breville coffee maker and you're going to force me to tell Melissa no, any chance you've got space for an office or a desk for her at your place? You can just come to your place and have coffee?
He does.
Yeah, we do.
Well, there you go. Good deal. I'll talk to her about
We're
that.
actually considering redoing some things. I've not said I'm going to do it yet, but we have considered moving my office from the upstairs bedroom to the basement. Just because we have a lot of extra room over there.
Right, yeah.
And summertime's coming. We've already had a couple warm days here in Columbus, and whenever it hit 80, 81, it was really, really toasty upstairs. We were trying not to turn the AC on too early, and so we're thinking about moving some things around. So she'll fit in perfectly.
I offered her our basement, but there's no natural light down there. It's dark and just
so is ours.
It's comfortable. It's not like it smells of basement, fortunately, but she's at our kitchen table right now, and I think she needs a better space.
Well, and not only that, when you have guest over, what have you, she don't want to have to pick up her whole office and move it and everything. No, it makes sense. I feel you on that heat thing.
Yeah.
So my house, you've stayed here quite a few times. We've all stayed here. Obviously, I've stayed here many, many times, but everyone here stayed here quite a few times, and the upstairs gets stupid hot. I mean, it's frustrating. I've got the real dramatic. My living room has the second floor, has a balcony and it's exposed. So I got real tall ceilings in there. and it looks really cool. But when you walk upstairs, you immediately feel that heat. It's immediate, and it was crazy because like at night when my dad was living here before they bought their house, my dad and my sister lived here for a few months, not much, in the transition from Louisiana to Columbus, and he lived upstairs where we do. It was so hot that at night we'd have to turn the temperature on the AC down to like 65 just to get the upstairs cool enough in the middle of summer. So
that's to where our house was in Knoxville. So I'm hoping. I mean, this one's obviously much bigger, so I got a feeling we're going to be going through the same thing. But
yeah, a lot of people think it's trashy, but I have a portable air conditioner in my bedroom, and that's what I use at night. That's how I'm able to stay comfortable. My air conditioner's not on the fritz. It's working. Knock on wood. But it's like 30 years old. And it's what do they call it? Geothermal air conditioner. So I don't have an outside unit. The heat from the air conditioner goes through like water from the ground, and it actually flushes out. So it's super, super efficient. But to replace it's like $30,000.
Wow.
So I'm not wanting to do anything because I know any day now that's gonna pop. And I'll be taking out a credit card and getting a best interest I can and try to replace it at that point. So I am super nervous. I don't want that to go out. They said it would go out within a year. Been here 4 years, hadn't gone out yet. So this might be the year, or it could last 10 more. Who knows? But but when I do that, I am going to rethink the air conditioning on the second floor, because it's just too darn hot.
Your house is big enough. You could probably do like a dual zone.
Well, my thought is replace this air conditioner with a slightly smaller unit and do the basement and first floor with it, and then do a second air conditioner for the top floor.
Yeah,
because
that makes sense.
it just gets so hot, and they don't. It's an older house, and they didn't really run the duct work. They didn't care about airflow. They care about aesthetics, and it just doesn't work all that great. Hopefully not going to have to do that for a few more years, but we'll see. I didn't plan on putting a new roof on it this past year, but I had to anyways. I feel like Matt and Jamie have been sitting over there long enough. They're like, what is going on? Why are they not talking to us? Why are we here? You haven't really given you a lot of chance to express yourself. So Matt and Jamie, you decide who goes first, but I want to know, how has your week been?
It's been great. I mean, working and, a couple of going to the shops a couple of times, as we all do with trucks.
Yes.
But, overall things have been going good for us.
And it's always fun because I always have to deal with him.
I heard that Matt is a gentle peach. I was gonna say a gentle donkey.
Nice. Vince, you got something to follow?
I do.
Go ahead.
I do.
Go ahead, sir.
I heard
Kind
that
sir.
that Matt was a what's another name for John? Like the nickname Jack?
Yes.
Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
Matt was a John donkey.
I heard that.
Nice.
I heard. Boy, this sounds like we're being bullies, doesn't it?
He's going to need a tissue. He's going to start
Oh, it
crying.
really does. It really does.
No, but I did find it interesting when I found out that his dad originally wanted to name him Richard.
And it probably was a good idea. He didn't, because that would have been too obvious.
That would be a little too on the nose.
Too obvious.
A little too on the
Yeah.
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 Well,
We joke with Matt because we love him. If
We-
we didn't love him, he
absolutely.
wouldn't be here.
absolutely. So Matt and Jamie, y'all, we've hung out so much. We've thrown down together quite a few times.
Yes.
Yeah.
And obviously, so those are the listening. It's like, oh my God, they're being so mean to one of their teams. No, we
No.
have.
No, we're being mean to Matt.
We're being
We're never mean to Jamie.
no. Jamie's
Jamie's wonderful.
yeah, but you know what pisses me off about Jamie?
She's married to Matt.
No. Every time we do a competition, she wins.
Yeah, she does.
Except for that one
She
time,
does.
right, Jerry?
That's right.
Yeah, but it was
super competitive.
Well, it's not even super competitive as much as it's talented.
I was going to say, there's nothing Jamie can't do.
There's
I
nothing.
was about to say the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I was to say I don't really try. I just do it.
Yeah. I think when you mentioned getting your roof redone,
Yeah.
she was upset that you didn't call her to
I know.
redo the roof.
I know. She's
It's
like,
I can do that.
yes.
I got the equipment, the tools.
Yeah, she's like, I got a tall ladder in the truck.
Right.
I can just go to Home Depot, buy the
Exactly.
shingles.
And take
You
care-
know,
take care of it.
yeah, it'd be super. And you know what? I guarantee if she did, I'd have no nails on the freaking ground.
None.
Because it's funny. The
None.
roofers are like, oh, we never leave nails on the ground.
Yeah,
oh my
right.
gosh, we pulled out. I guarantee you can still find them. But we pulled up like a coffee can full,
Wow.
and
Those
it wasn't.
And those are
Folgers.
expensive nails.
Are they?
When they puncture your tire,
Oh,
they're
okay.
expensive nails.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
You have been with us for quite some time. And when I say with us, I do mean you've been a team independent contractor with Hyfield Trucking for quite a few years. Y'all have really become your borderline legend status now at this point. You started out in a straight truck. You've moved on to being mentors, and now you're on your something truck and their truck. You've really had a really wonderful progression over the past few years, and I would love to know, when did you start? When did you start with us? I apologize. I'm not good with time. You know, just the other day could have been 4 years ago. Not too long ago, it's 10 years ago. So to me, I've known you for a while, and I feel like you've been with us for a long time. I want to say 20 years. But the company hasn't been around that long, so I know it's
Right.
not. So when did you start with this? When did y'all come on board? Because I'm just not good with dates. I apologize.
That's okay. We originally made our contact with Hyfield December 28th, 2018.
December 28th, 2018.
Yeah.
Okay, so Christmas just came and went,
Mm-hmm.
and let's change our entire life.
In the beginning, we did tractor trailer. We drove tractor trailer,
Okay.
and we worked for a couple of predatory companies out there. When her and I were discussing it, I took about a year and a half of researching, expediting, watching videos, and eventually she says, "Let's do that." And she goes, "Go ahead and make the call." So I'm like, okay. Well, a week had gone by, and I didn't make the call. And she says, "Did you call yet?" And I said, "Nope." And then she made the phone call.
Oh, nice.
So it started out that way where, just gathering information. And honestly, I took too long gathering information because of what we had been through. We should have leaped, at least a year earlier than what we did.
Well,
So that's a story we hear from a lot of teams when they come out here. They're nervous about it. They don't come on right away because they're doing their research and trying to find out everything they possibly can. And they get here and they go, "Why didn't I do this sooner?"
Yeah.
Exactly. Especially if you had a couple of companies that didn't treat you very well
Sure.
and took advantage of you, you kind of become gun shy at that point. You're like,
So what advice could you offer a new team that's in that position currently going, should I make the change? Should I not make the change? Anything that you can add to help them make that decision?
in my opinion, I over-researched. I got to the bottom of the barrel on that, and I was still looking for more information, even though I was satisfied with the information I got.
Sure.
So I don't know why I procrastinated on that length of time, but I had gotten the information I needed.
Sure. And I understand that it's hard to make that life-changing decision, whether it's trucking or any other industry. It's hard to make that decision. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So that was a big part, and made the phone call. From there, we ended up scheduling orientation. Packed things up, and to Columbus we came.
Nice.
nice. So you picked your truck up in Columbus.
No, we picked it up in Green. That's when the trucks were being delivered at.
The trucks weren't being delivered there, but I do recall because we
They
had
were.
not normally though. So we did that because we brought yours and the Cutchins up there.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
I
So
know I misspoke. I said Columbus, meaning
Yeah,
Akron,
no.
Green.
I remember because we took. Okay, so
Wait a minute. You got to think back. Who brought the truck?
Eric.
Eric did,
Yes.
because
I
you were ill.
Was I ill?
You were ill after a cruise.
It happens.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, sir. There we go. It's all
comes
coming
back
back
to
to
it
you.
now.
yeah.
Yeah.
What? Okay, wait. What year was that? 18? Or 19?
We orientation, because we got things together. Our first week of orientation was February 18th.
February 18th.
So it was just after you got back and you were ill.
In 2018.
2019.
2019. Yes. So we took out FedEx. I remember this very well. So we got back from a cruise. We did a big cruise. There's a lot of people on it. My mom and dad went, and we had several other people with us. And we actually went up to FedEx immediately right out of the cruise. Fleet owner meeting. I didn't feel bad. Eric did. So Eric actually ended up staying at the house or at the apartment back in Columbus, and me and my dad went up to the meeting, and we went and sat through it. Came back to Columbus, and when I got to Columbus, we got Donato's Pizza because my dad had never been to Columbus before, so he had never had Donato's Pizza. Those of you that have never had Donato's Pizza, it's delicious. It is outstanding pizza that is on the level of like Pizza Hut, Domino's. It's that kind of chain, but it's so much better. It's really, really good. I encourage you, if you're ever in the Northeast and you have a chance, or the Midwest, go for it. But so I got Donato's Pizza, and I was so mad because the Donato's Pizza had no flavor. I was like, wow, I don't understand. They must have screwed up. The pizza has no flavor at all, and I was legit angry. Well, the next morning I woke up and I was like, oh, yeah, I could die right now.
Wow.
I felt
Wow.
horrible. And it was my very first time having the flu. So I caught it on the boat. Eric had it. And then he got better because he didn't go to the fleet owners meeting. He was away from everybody, and he was able to recover. And when I got back to Columbus, I then had the flu. Sent Dad home. And actually, Eric had to take Dad to the airport because I couldn't do it. Then Dad ended up having the flu down in Louisiana, and I had the flu in Columbus. And I thought the flu was like a bad cold. I had no idea it was what it was. Yeah, I had the flu. Come to find out, we took out half the building. We took out half of FedEx Custom Critical. It was a shame, and I feel bad about it. But we were patient zero, and we took out half the people. And I've talked to some people at FedEx since then, and they're like, oh, yeah, we remember that. Yep. And I now have learned, like, if I'm going to come out of a cruise, I'm going to give myself a couple weeks before I do anything major because I don't want to do that again. But I also get a flu shot now. I always like, ooh, flu shot, it's painful. I don't really want to do it.
It ain't the flu.
It's free and it's not the flu. Jab me, I'm good. Yeah. It was horrible. So I definitely feel better about getting the flu shot now, and I haven't had it since, and I hope I never have it again. But yeah, that's where I was. I was literally just laying in the bed, just praying that God would take me, and He didn't. And I guess that's a good thing. But it was, it was so much worse than I thought it was going to be. It was really bad.
Well, I think also you also had to put Eric in his uncomfortable zone because he doesn't usually, I guess, meet and greet at that time. And he came up and tell you what, he was a big help. And Jamie had questions on paperwork and things like that. And he was Johnny on the spot with it. You know,
it wasn't his typical thing, but he did it. Like,
great.
It was something he did. Like Kelly and Jimmy, the same thing happened with them. Well, I wasn't sick that time, but I wasn't able to bring the truck to them. So Eric was actually the first person to bring the truck to him, and he met him for the first time, and I didn't meet him until they moved into their second truck. Like, that was a thing. At the time, we were based out of Louisiana. We knew freight was terrible in Louisiana for any carrier we worked with, and so we never asked people to come down there. We'd meet them in Memphis, or we'd meet them in Greene, or very rarely, if it was made more sense, we'd meet them in their town they were at, but that was very few and far between. Because if you come to Louisiana, you're going to be here for a week. What's the point of having you come down to Louisiana? So it was very different. Now in Columbus, every carrier has freight going everywhere from here. Yeah. So it just makes sense to bring people here. But that was a very different situation we had. And it, there'd be times where it's like, one truck has to go one place, one truck has to go another. It was fun. Since then we've grown a lot. We've got a lot more like SOPs and things like that. But back then it was just everybody on deck. How much can we squeeze out of 2 people? And that's what we did. So it was fun. But you got a D8803, right?
Yes.
I remember that truck. So that truck was the very first brand new truck we ever bought. Good truck back when we were running Eminence.
Good money making truck.
It was a very good money making truck for the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Solid truck. Then from there you went to C2732. Yep. So that was a Super C.
Super C. Yeah.
That was a really cool truck.
Now the funny part with that is during orientation when it was time for the trucks, you had 2 trucks there. You had a C unit and a D unit. And I'm looking at the truck, and me being the way that I am, I'm like, I want that D unit.
Yeah.
And there was kind of a joke going on.
That was the first time around.
The first time around.
Yeah.
Yeah, 8803. And then there was a joke that was going on at the time, and Eric was holding keys in his hand behind his back.
Yeah. Yep.
He's like,
He told me about this.
pick one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I tapped one, brings the keys out. It was the one that I wanted.
Cool.
But the funny thing is we had, with Joe and Candy, we had already talked about it. And I'm like, I want that truck over there.
Yeah.
And Joe and Candy, they are great people. And Joe's like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, you can have it. So even if I would have picked the wrong hand, Joe would have been like, yeah, go ahead, take that truck.
And that was
and
that was a little different time at FedEx too. There was no load board. So a D unit, C unit, there was no penalty. You could do both just fine. The D unit was cooler though because it had the bolt sleeper. It just looked nicer, and
the Onan was nice and quiet.
The Onan was nice and quiet. It had the fairings which looked sharp. So back when you had it, 8803 had the fairings, so they covered most of the sleeper, underneath the sleeper.
Yep.
Not quite all the way, but most of the way. Were they cracked yet? Did you have the fairing repair kit?
No, it wasn't cracked at all.
So that truck, we've sold it a couple years ago, a few years ago. The fairings inevitably got cracked, as they do, which is why we don't put them on trucks anymore. I used to tell people all the time, I'm like, all right, here's your fairing repair kit. Do you know what the fairing repair kit was? A roll of white duct tape.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, look, when that duct tape gets old and nasty and worn out, and you rip it off and put the new one on, and the white matched the white of the fairing perfectly. I was so happy about that because I was nervous. I'm like, oh, is this going to look tacky or whatever? You couldn't tell it was on there. It was crazy how good it was.
Duct tape is a little off-white, so it matched the age of the
matched
sun.
perfect. Yeah, it was great. So right before we sold it, I did bring it into the shop and had it fiberglassed and painted properly and everything. So whoever bought the truck from us ended up getting a nice fiberglass completed fairing. But that was our go-to because we repaired them one time, and I mean it wasn't like 6 months later they were cracked again, and I'm like, nope, not doing this anymore. But
couldn't have asked for a better truck. I mean, that truck, what a good experience, because I mean we've been in other trucks with another company prior, and nightmares.
Oh yeah.
And that one was not a lick of problem.
Well, in that truck too, I mean, I remember it very well. Again, it was our first brand new truck, so you don't forget that. I'm telling you, when we sold it, we probably had like 16 teams coming in and out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like it had been through its paces and worked really hard. And
Jackie and Mike, we talked about that too, because they said they were in that, and they said that truck was a good moneymaker.
It was. Yeah, it was solid. And that was, so I remember when I bought it too, it had a lift axle on it, and we put the full-size tires on it. We pumped it to stay down, and everybody was like, why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense or whatever. And they quickly found out. The steers didn't get destroyed. The front end didn't get destroyed. The lift axle could take the abuse over the years, and it really made for a smooth riding, very good handling truck.
It did, and especially the area that we started out running in was in the Northeast, and a lot of the roads have that crown, and that having those axles in the rear really kept it from over swaying, like a normal single axle.
Yeah, and then going from that to C2732, that truck, I love that truck. That was one that I
turned sharper.
I remember ordering that as well. It had a slightly shorter wheelbase. It was only like 36 feet long or something like that. What, 38 feet long?
38, because the box was only 18. That's why it was actually a C unit, not a D, because it was an 18-foot box.
And it had that big 120-inch AA sleeper on it. And, oh, yeah.
Bowling alley.
Yes. I remember being nervous when we decided, okay, we're going to go D only after building, because we only built 2 of those trucks that were like that. And they were like, nah, let's go D only. If we're going to spend that much money, let's make sure we have a D unit. And one of the things that I actually worked with Wayne on was, how do you take everything in a 120-inch sleeper and put it in a I think we had to lose 6 inches, so 114. And we were able to cut the bathroom down by 3 inches and cut the closet down by 3 inches and squeeze everything into a 114-inch floor plan.
Yeah.
Have a really comfortable truck with a shower and everything, and still be able to maintain 20 foot of box that would satisfy our carrier's needs. And but before that, the 120s, I mean, the 6 inches doesn't sound like a lot, but it made a huge difference.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah. And do you remember why we came out of that truck? 8803.
Why you came out of D803?
Yeah, in the beginning. Now I'm testing you with all these trucks and everything that you had, because I had a conversation and you offered up, said, hey, I know you're in a D unit. This one's a C unit. And you went through that whole spiel about, you can still make the same revenue, which you were right. We cranked out a lot of revenue in C2732.
I don't recall.
The biggest thing is another team was coming on, and they actually needed the 2 beds, the 2 step.
Was that what it
the
was?
Bunk beds, yeah. And they said, would you be willing to make a change since we're same household? They need the 2 beds. And that was the whole reason why we came out of it to start with.
Was Hugh already in that truck before you or after you?
Trying to think.
Now we're digging way back in the archives.
As far as
off.
which truck are you talking about?
So 2732. Were you directly after Frank, or were you after Hugh?
We were after
somebody
Hugh.
else.
After Hugh, okay, yeah,
we
that's
were
what I
the third
recall.
team in it.
Yeah, Hugh was. I mean, him and his wife, man, they were a great team. I love those people. They're down in. They have like a horse ranch down in southern Arizona, right outside the Mexican border and everything. They were great hard workers. He's the one that was in that truck when the one box. So the injectors on the truck went bad. So Detroit back in the day, they did some like brass injectors, and they didn't hold up well.
Right.
They don't do that anymore, but they did, and so they failed, and they shot oil all through the engine and all through the emission system and took out the one box.
Fabulous.
They were down, and they were like, hey, can you put us up in a hotel? And we said, sure. They found a hotel. They were out in, where's Virginia Beach? That's North Carolina, right?
Virginia Beach?
Yeah, in North Carolina?
No, I think it's South Carolina.
Is South Carolina?
I'm pretty sure it's in Virginia.
Is it in Virginia?
Yes.
Virginia.
Okay, so they were out there, and that's where their truck broke down. And they asked, I think they were in North Carolina when they broke down, though. I think that's pretty close.
Okay.
Anyways, so the truck broke down, and they were they asked, hey, can we get this hotel in Virginia Beach? And we're like, I don't want to spend a lot of money. And they were like, no, look, and it was like $100 a night or something,
Right.
and it had a kitchen and everything, and we're like, yeah, sure,
yeah.
why not? And they ended up spending 2 weeks out there while they had to get the one box and everything replaced. So they had a great vacation while we had their truck in the shop. It was pretty wild for them. But then after that, the truck ran great. That's why I say buy the extended warranty, worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And then so y'all were after them. Cool.
Yeah.
That was a really cool floor plan. It was a great truck. Only thing, looking back on it, and maybe it's a now thing and not so much a then thing, the cherry cabinets were a little dated, like a brown or a black oak. I think is a more common. The cherry cabinets gave it a very early 2000s vibe. And then that countertop was complete junk. It was a Formica top, and it was not done well, and it the corner just looked like garbage at the end of it. Typically now, so we have the two people who buy sleepers from now, they actually do a Formica tops, but they do it much better than what they did back then. The new stuff is much better than what they were doing back then. But outside of that, I mean, it was a great truck.
Beautiful riding truck.
And then the time came, and you got into the truck you're in now.
Correct.
Another bathroom truck. It's a 120 bolt, which is not quite 120, but it's close enough. And yeah, it's so funny. I remember when Matt came. Do you remember this? And you swapped into the D unit, I came by to see you and say hi. And Jamie saw me. She stepped out of the truck, said, "Hey, hug my neck." And she was like, I said, "Where's Matt?" Or whatever. She's like, "Inside." So I walk inside. Matt's laying on the floor on his back, head and arm half into a cabinet, drilling into the brand new truck, drilling with a DeWalt drill into it. And I'm like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Why are you
cabinet
ruining
doors,
my
the wardrobe.
truck?
Yeah, the wardrobe cabinet doors were off. They were laying on the bed area, and he's like, "Hey," and it's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he's like, "I gotta peek my head out."
Yeah.
I think Eric received a text and a picture on that one. You know, he's already destroying the new truck.
I know, right?
Had to get shelving in. Priorities.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. It's
Definitely.
one thing. I think the bolts. I do love the bolt sleepers. I love their safety. If you go online, you can actually find pictures of a bolt sleeper where the truck's rolled over and they hold their shape just fine. They protect the occupants. Like Bolt builds a very safe sleeper, but they do definitely lack when it comes to storage. They give you big, huge open compartments.
Right.
They don't give you a lot of shelves, and so it is very common for people to put either like those plastic
Stackable shelves.
shelves,
Yeah.
or to actually put in the like what Matt did with the track and then the adjustable
Right.
shelves.
We ended up putting because sometimes you mentioned that they're just huge. Sometimes there's no separation side to side.
Yes.
So we ended up kind of putting a wall in one of our cabinets just so we had that separation, so things weren't sliding back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely have to build them, set
Custom.
your truck up the way that you
Oh,
want.
yeah, definitely.
It's your home.
Definitely.
I mean, so you want it comfort and usable.
Absolutely. And y'all are great at organization. I've been in their truck a few times. I remember the very first time I ever crawled into Matt and Jamie's truck. It was at the expo in Fort Wayne back in like 2019.
2019.
It was 2019.
Having some lobster rolls.
And yes, they were like, "Hey, we heard you like lobster rolls," which I love lobster rolls. I'm a huge lobster roll fan. And they're like, "Hey, we heard you like lobster rolls," and I was like, "Okay, that's my cargo van with free candy on the side of it is lobster rolls." So I jump in, and the first thing I notice when I walk in, I'm like, "This is like Pier 1. It's like no one lives here." And then so I
It's
walk.
a model truck.
It's a model truck. Yeah, there's nobody lives here. So I walk over, or sit in the dinette set, and Jamie pulls out every little thing is organized, and she brings out the lobster salad and all this stuff, and makes me a nice lobster roll, and I eat it, and it's outstanding. She gives me another one. It's also outstanding. And then I'm like, I have to stop now because I'll eat 1,000 more of these if you let me.
And she's like, one more.
She's a pusher. And so that was my first time ever getting into one of their trucks, and it was remarkable to see how well organized and thought out y'all had everything, and you've just continued that. There's been quite a few people that have checked out your sleepers over the road, and one thing I forgot to mention was a couple weeks ago when we went to Eric and I flew out to Bordentown, New Jersey. Y'all were the ones that actually were throwing down the tailgate party out at Bordentown's Loves. It was a wonderful spread. I really enjoyed it. Everybody was so happy, and it was a great time for people to talk shop, loads, this, that, or the other, the frustrations they're going through, and be able to get it off their chest and also get some advice on, hey, here's how to handle that if that happens. And then also get a belly full of food. I mean, not Wendy's or what's Iron Skill, is that what's across the street?
Yeah.
Full of grease and all that, garbage that you're not supposed to have. But you actually, so the first night you were there, you brought your Blackstone out.
Yes.
And you made
Hibachi.
Eric and I knew we were going to fly out there, and I knew you were going to do hibachi, and we were excited. I'm like, all right, I get to have hibachi. I've had your grilling before, and I've had your smoking, and I'm like, all right, cool, we're going to have hibachi. I look on Facebook at night, the night before we're leaving, and it's like, here you're having hibachi, and I'm like, no.
Wait till I get there, even though you don't know I'm coming.
Exactly. Exactly. So you did hibachi the next day. So when we did actually show up, and we didn't tell you we were coming. Did y'all have a clue?
No.
Not a clue.
Because I remember texting you, asking you, hey, are you concerned about the weather? Are you concerned about, well, mostly the weather, because the weather was going to get kind of nasty. And so I
We'll
was
deal
curious.
with it.
That's exactly what you said. I was afraid I was giving away too much. I really didn't want you to know that, hey, this is what I was thinking about doing. And it sounds like y'all had no clue.
No. No, we were shocked because when I saw you walk around the truck and you were doing that crouching look around as you walked around, I was looking and I'm like just completely dumbfounded. And then Eric comes walking right behind you and it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
what are you guys doing here?
Yeah.
You checking up on us?
Well, I get there. It's a police now. I got there and just wanted to hang out with y'all. And I've seen y'all do this. Y'all did it all last summer, and it was a big hit. And I wanted to come out and support you then, and it wasn't able to. So it was great to be able to come out and do it this time. I got there and I look over and you got two Traegers going, but then one looks different than the other. After we had our pleasantries and hugged each other's necks and all that good stuff, you talked about how. No, why does this always happen? It happened last time. Foreman.
Robert Foreman.
Robert Foreman. Sorry, Robert. I apologize. Robert, you explained how it's like, oh, no, it's his grill.
Yeah.
And so y'all had a barbecue competition going on right in front of me.
It was to see which one would work, do what, which one was better, if one was better. They both were really good. I mean, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I asked Matt about this yesterday when he came through the yard.
Yeah.
Because I was curious. I've seen the Pit Boss and the Traeger. I have a Traeger. The Pit Boss price is less than the Traeger.
Yeah.
But I was asking Matt, I've only seen them. I've read the specs, but I don't know how it cooks. So apparently with the Pit Boss, you get more cooking surface, but less pellet storage. So you're refilling more frequently.
Yeah, and if you want to do a long smoke, you don't have as much.
Right. You have to make sure you get up and add pellets. But I was curious about that as well, just the differences between the two.
Well, I'm going to tell you the final product was delicious.
Good.
You couldn't tell the difference between the two, could
There
you?
you go.
Couldn't, no.
There you
But
go.
that's two masters, working at the grill. So, I mean, I'd like to see what an amateur like myself can pull off. No, the food was great. The company was great. It did end up storming, and we had to seek shelter. It was a lot of fun, and your hospitality was outstanding. So my favorite part, or not favorite part, one great thing that did happen was the next day, Sunday morning for lunch, we had to leave pretty early out of there because of our flight home. Eric had lunch, and you cooked lunch, and he was able to have the full hibachi. I was not able to have the full hibachi, just timing and what I'm doing, and but I did grab several pieces of the steak and the chicken, and it was outstanding. And I look forward to the next time you do hibachi, and hopefully I'll be there for it because it was outstanding. The skill you bring to the table as far as being a great cook and a great prep cook and the sides and everything. I mean, so on top of being great host, you also produce great food, and it was very appreciated. Yeah, I just want to thank you openly here now that you're here. This wasn't planned. I didn't know you were going to be here until a couple hours ago. Genuinely, it was great. I appreciate it, and I think there'll be more of these to come.
I think it was fantastic because also, with the prepping, which takes a lot of work to prep for that evening, but
Yeah.
Also, Bobby was up at what 5 o'clock with me out there. We're out there. I got my big old 10,000 lumen light, so we could see what was going on. and we're getting everything prepped and everything. And then later on, as people started arriving, when it came breakfast time, I tell you what, Neil Royer came out.
That's right.
And he helped with breakfast, and I started doing the bacon. And then
Chef
we
Neil.
moved this. Oh yeah, and you know what? There's a couple of things he did with eggs, and I'm like, wow, that was really cool how he did that, flipping them, and even when he took the rings, he just gave it a throw, and I'm like, that just flopped over. Usually I'm going like this. He just rolled it, and I'm like, he taught me.
It is so much fun watching a master at their craft, isn't it?
But we were laughing. It was a good time and making jokes. And,
Absolutely.
That's what it was all about. The whole gathering is, some people said it was like camping. It's a break out of the truck.
Yeah.
Kind of a breather.
Absolutely. And those times are, I mean, it's one of the things I love about expediting is the lifestyle it gives you. You can be at a truck stop with half a dozen other FedEx trucks, and there were people there that weren't with Hyfield. Several people.
Yes.
In that community and that hanging out together, it didn't matter that we weren't all working with the same company. We were all mutually doing the same thing, same job, same lifestyle, hanging out, having a good time. I really enjoyed that a lot. Going from that to if you're out and maybe you're in a spot where there's not a lot of people, or maybe you want to go camping, you can go camping for the weekend. Or like in Vegas. Vegas is one of those places that I love getting a chance to go to. I know, Jerry, you're more Reno than Vegas, but Vegas was always our hot spot. And finding those places that allow truck parking and being able to go out and explore the city for the weekend, or just have relaxing time at one of the hotels, like that. The lifestyle side of this business is outstanding. There is a huge camaraderie, and there's also a huge chance or a large chance to go out and do things that you just can't do in a regular bobtail. You can't do in a regular tractor trailer. So I definitely appreciate what y'all do, and it was a lot of fun. We do have, real quick, a story that Vince and I saw when we were looking at that we wanted to let everybody know or just talk about for a second, because I have some thoughts on this. And it's an interesting situation. General Motors, they're a small automaker. I think they're out of Detroit, right?
I think so, but they're so small, it's hard to tell.
It's hard to say.
It really is.
They own just a couple small companies like GMC, Chevrolet, Cadillac. They used to own Pontiac and Oldsmobile.
Buick. Yeah.
Buick. Oh, how can you forget Buick? Love a Buick. I love the ride of a Buick. Like, I don't want to feel anything. Buick. That should be their model. Our motto. Buick. I don't want to feel anything. Love it.
I think heroin stole that already.
You remember Velour? Anyways, so I read this article on FreightWaves. General Motors recalls 40,000 Navistar built trucks for fire risk. 40,000 trucks in jeopardy of catching on fire.
You know, when I saw that headline, GM recalls 40,000 Navistar built trucks, I was like, GM? What? I don't understand. What are they talking about? GM doesn't make Navistar trucks; they make GM trucks.
Correct.
I don't get it. So,
can I give you a little backstory?
I'd love to hear backstory.
Navistar used to be international, right?
They still are. So Navistar owns International, and Volkswagen Group owns them now. But Navistar used to build, prior to like 2015 or so, give or take a couple of years, I think 2012 actually, they used to build all of the Power Stroke diesel engines for Ford.
Really?
Right, yeah, I knew that.
So if you have an older Ford with a Power Stroke diesel, Navistar built it. If you had a large Class 7 truck, Navistar also built those. Like the F650, F750, they built them down in Mexico at a Navistar plant, and they put the Ford logos on or whatever, but it was a it was a Navistar product. They actually built it, and they were contracting for that.
Right.
The 6.4 liter diesel that Navistar put out for Ford was a train wreck. It was horrible. It was an absolutely terrible engine, and it garnered them terrible reviews. And just before that, they had a 6.0 liter Power Stroke diesel, also terrible. So after almost 10 years, or maybe even a little more than 10 years of dealing with these train wreck of Navistar diesels to deal with the new emissions, Ford was like, screw it, we're going to go back to building diesels ourselves. So that's the Scorpion, which is the 6.7 liter diesel that Ford makes out now. They make it themselves. That's actually a Ford
they learned
product.
their lesson.
Yes, and so they took back the F650, F750. They now make it themselves. Kind of left Navistar with like nobody to work with. Well, GM and Chevy saw that option and said, "Hey, maybe you could build trucks for us." And so they took. Navistar was like, "Sure, why not?" So now you can buy a GMC Silverado, Chevrolet Silverado. I think 4,500, 55, 6,500, something like that. Or a GMC, whatever the equivalent is for GMC. It's really a Navistar-built truck with a Navistar engine. I'm sorry, this might actually be a GM engine. but Navistar builds everything for them. And so that's kind of how they got in the situation they're in. So this was originally basically a Ford product, and GM took over after Ford abandoned Navistar. And that's kind of how we got where we're at now. Apparently, there's 40,428. That's a specific number,
It
isn't
really is, yeah.
The brake fluid, so it's hydraulic brakes. So if you have an air brake version of this truck, doesn't apply to you. The hydraulic brakes, the brake fluid can leak into a pressure sensor assembly and cause a fire. From 2019 to 2023, the 4500, 5500, and 6500 trucks, they had 11 instances of fire where that actually occurred. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said that there were no injuries or accidents because of it, but there were still fires. So they are recalling all those trucks. They actually have a do not drive notice out to everyone for it, which means it's such a strong recall that we don't want you even driving the truck. We'll just come tow you, bring you to a shop, and get that fixed.
It's such a major safety issue. They don't want those trucks being out there to possibly have this fire start.
Yeah, that's crazy, because you remember when the airbag situation was happening where if an airbag deployed, it would basically blow shrapnel in your face?
Mm-hmm.
That was not a do not drive. This is a immediately do not drive. I'm just thinking about, a lot of like landscaping companies and small dump trucks and tow truck companies, they all use these trucks. Imagine just being told like, hey, you can't use it anymore. We'll have it towed to our shop and we'll get it back to you in a few weeks.
Yeah, these are all commercial vehicles. These are not everyday drivers for most people.
Correct.
These are people using these things for operate businesses. I mean, they're medium duty trucks.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's a burden for a lot of people, a lot of small businesses that are doing those types of things.
I can't imagine. So I bring it up because Matt and Jamie, in years past, in a life yonder past, y'all ran a wrecking company.
Mm-hmm.
And can you imagine if you got an order from GM and they said, hey, that wrecker that you make your money with, don't use it again until we get it fixed?
Well, actually, in my flybid, that's how I found out my International was actually a Ford motor when I was doing research and getting injectors for it. And it was like, I'm like, Ford? And, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it took me a minute. So when you were talking about it and you were talking about GM, I was like, I had that going with it.
But I mean, so just imagine back when you were running your company and you get this notice from GM, don't use your wrecker again. What is the thought that goes to your mind? It's how you make your money. It's how are you going to pay the truck now? Because that's the thing too is,
You can't pay the notice. You can't make money.
GMAC, I think, is the company that does their financing.
Yeah.
BMO, which does a lot of truck lending and stuff, they don't care.
No, they want their money.
No, then you get loss of income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then depending on availability for the recall, for the repair, the time that you're down, it's really hard. I mean, at that point, a lot of these guys, like you said, landscapers and stuff like that, I mean, that's their livelihood.
I can hear that phone call coming to you right now. Can you not drive your wrecker because it's got a recall? We'll send a wrecker to pick up your wrecker to get it repaired. Yeah. An interesting thing here, too, is that dealers are notified of the recall on April 13th. Customer letters aren't being mailed till May 29th.
That is interesting.
I wonder if it's a typo because it's a long...
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either, but it's a month and a half before the customers get the letter, and it's a do not drive order that they're putting out.
Right, but even with a do not drive order, you think about all the years of vehicles that you own and how many recalls was on your vehicle and you knew zero.
Nothing
you
about
knew
it.
nothing about it.
Yep.
You never were notified.
Right.
This is a pretty serious recall.
It is.
I mean,
It's very serious.
I agree.
So we get, with all of our trucks, we get recalls all the time.
All the
like
time.
you can't imagine. It's like all the time we get recalls. I know it's funny. It's like, I just spent $300,000 on a truck. What do you mean it's got a recall?
Yeah.
All the
That
time.
happened with the tractor.
It did. Yes.
I went in for a recall, and I'm like, okay, go in for a recall. And they're like, we got 3 recalls. So while your truck is in here, we'll get them all
do
done
all of
for
them.
you.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
It happens all the time. I take
Yeah.
trucks into Fighter for something in a Freightliner, and they're like, "Oh, we got these recalls. We'll take care of these for you as well." So it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get, so every time we get the recall notices, and I'm telling you, it's 2 or 3 times a month. It's very frequent. And we've got a wide variety of trucks. We got everything. I think our oldest truck's a 2018, maybe at this point. And then our newest truck obviously being like a 2023, and we're about to get some 2024s in. And so we get a wide variety of recalls, and because our maintenance staff, like, we don't have an office, we run, everybody works from home. Eric gets those recall notices, and he scans them in the computer, and he sends them out to the maintenance staff. And then the maintenance coordinates that with the drivers to get those recalls accomplished. And sometimes they're minor, sometimes they're very major. And none of them so far have been a do not drive, but some of them have been more serious. So, like, there was a recall for, I think it was a gas pedal that would get stuck. It was serious because it's a gas pedal gets stuck. Like, you don't want to keep revving your engine when you don't want it to.
Right.
But the brakes would overpower it, so it wasn't as critical, and so they took it pretty serious, but we got it done. But there've been all kinds of sometimes the recalls are literally just put eyes on this and make sure it's torqued to the right.
Yep.
This bolt's torqued to the right thing.
We had that recently with the M2s where it was
the crown cotter pin.
the cotter pin on the steering shaft. Yeah.
Steering
And that
linkage.
was I don't envy the maintenance staff at all when that one came through, because it wasn't all the M2s. It was only certain M2s. There was a lot of them.
Yeah.
We had to do in ops. We had to take 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And
It was
we rotated them around, and they got taken care of pretty quickly. But it was one of those of put eyes on it, make sure it's torqued to the right specs, replace the cotter pin.
It was about 25 trucks. And of those 25 trucks, of course, we did have only one that actually had to have a whole new steering linkage installed and all that other stuff. It was a real disaster.
Was it the one you picked up?
It was not. It was one. So all these trucks that are in our like getting prepped for new teams, everyone was fine. It was the one that had, or one of the ones that had a team in it that was just coming in to get the thing looked at. They actually had to have it replaced, and it was like, oh, you got to be kidding me! And of course, they didn't have the parts.
Of course not.
So I think that's why you asked about they're letting the companies know prior to the general public, is because they want to make sure they start ordering those parts and get them in, because the dealerships know how many they've sold. They know about what they need inventory wise,
Right.
because I guarantee you there's not enough stock for them to send every dealership a certain number
a
of
part
them.
for each one. And then you may not go to the dealership it was sold at also, right? If you're out on the road and you bought your truck here in Columbus,
Correct.
you may be in Las Vegas and you have to get it repaired there. And think about, too, we don't just have recalls on the truck. We have recalls on other parts as well.
Yes.
We had one just this winter on the carrier reefer units.
Yeah.
I took the truck. We only have a few carrier reefers in our fleet. I took the truck that I had in ops over to the carrier dealership, and the guy looks at me and goes, "We don't have parts for that recall yet.
Yeah.
We won't have them for about 3 weeks."
Yeah.
He says, "I can try and put a kit together for you, but I'll have to let you know." And fortunately, that truck wasn't going out for another couple of weeks, so we were able to leave it with him to have it repaired. But things like APUs, reefer units, the TCUs, excuse me, all kinds of things in the truck could certainly have a recall that shuts us down.
Absolutely. We had a pretty major recall done a few years ago on our lift axles. There was a certain brand of lift axle that we were buying, and we had to have a bunch of them brought back because the U-bolts on them were snapping, and they just replaced them with new U-bolts. They did have to actually put a metal plate on there to, I guess, strengthen it and put the new U-bolt on. And after that, we never had an issue with them again. So it worked, but it was, it's a little frustrating because when you get a truck and you want to go driving, the very dead last thing you want to do is go into a shop. And for a new team, it's discouraging.
Sure.
For a senior team, it's like, okay, well, this is just what we do. Like, if we're going to be in a truck like this, it's going to break down and we're going to have to go get it fixed. And if you're out there running for like a major company like Swift or a Prime or someone, you're thinking like, oh, I bring it back to the yard, I just get another one.
Nope.
These trucks have custom sleepers on. They really become home.
Yep.
We've seen all kinds of custom work that people have done. We had one recently where they tiled the backsplash
and the
refrigerator with this stainless steel tile. It looked really sharp. We've gotten them back with all kinds of crazy stuff. That's it's your home. It's where you're gonna live. I mean, like, a lot of people have their houses, but some people don't. Some people give it on the road. They see these trucks and they're like, why am I wasting money on an apartment?
Doesn't make sense when you have that home in the truck.
It really
You
doesn't.
got to downsize. It's a little hard for some folks to downsize, but if you can do it, why not?
Absolutely.
Why not?
Well, I want to ask a question. If you could tell someone who's thinking about, hey, we're going to get into trucking, we're going to go drive a straight truck, we're going to go drive in a custom sleeper and all that, what advice would you give them? You've been out here a long time. You kind of have an idea of what you want, of what's going on. Kind of have an idea. I asked you.
By
Got a
this
good
time,
grasp.
You got
by this time, you guys are getting a grasp on
You're
it.
starting.
Understanding
You're
it.
starting to understand what's going on.
Always learning.
No. What would your advice be? What would you tell people? How would you direct them? Because you have, at this point, attained a goal that I think we're all looking for, which is wisdom. Yeah, I would like to
You
hear
want me to go
what.
first, or you?
What?
Go first.
Yeah. What do
Okay.
you? What do you see all the time that you're like, oh, this? I wish people knew. Fill in the blank.
I think, far as Vince said, wisdom. My opinion on that is the wisdom that we get as mentors out here, far as with teams, the wisdom we get is their success and also their fails. When a team does something and we're not even sure if it would work, and I think Jerry could probably step in on this, there's stuff that you learn from your teams out there.
Absolutely.
You learn from their success, you learn from their failures, and we try to pass that wisdom on so we can make sure teams are successful and not have those, those trials by fire errors out there that financially hurt. When you make a $2,000 mess up,
Sure.
that hurts.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, far as coming out here, don't procrastinate. Do your information. Get your information. Do your research. And make it happen. Sitting on it, just like I said, I wish I didn't sit as long as we did.
I think that's one aspect of the mentor program people don't realize is that, yes, the mentors have been doing this and they're experienced with it. But the mentors that I know personally, that I've talked to personally, they all say to a person that they learn from their mentees, that they recognize they don't know everything, and they learn from their mentees, whether it's a new way of doing something on their truck or a new information from a dispatcher that's been shared with them. They're always learning stuff, and then they're able to share that also with other mentees or other mentors or other teams they come across. So that's a good piece of advice.
And the good part is you spoke about, with logistics, the peak and valleys that are going on, is sometimes some teams have a harder time adjusting what they learned
Sure.
and learn to adapt and overcome.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where we can come into play. Even though a team had graduated from us, is to get a hold of them and say, hey, just checking out, seeing how you're doing.
Right.
This is what's going on, and to help them out, because sometimes it's hard to see the change. You think it's a
Sure.
small change, and it's a little longer than what you thought it would have been.
Absolutely. Well, I think our human nature is to embrace the Chicken Little, the sky is falling, right? When our normal gets upset, that's our default. And I don't think that's something that we eradicate from ourselves. We just have to acknowledge when that happens,
Sure.
because it's a good
Yeah.
impulse. It's a good, hey, something's not right. I need to fix it.
Mhm.
And then you step back and you look at seasonal peaks and valleys and you go, oh, okay, that makes sense. So as long as you can take the terrifying feeling and then rationalize it with the normal cyclical nature of freight or whatever it may be, then I think it's fine. When you can't normalize it and it doesn't add up, that's when you have to go like, okay, something's wrong, and that's when our flight or fight kicks in, right?
Right.
That's when that nature happens.
I think that's good advice for anything really, though, is when you see something that's different,
Yes.
as opposed to reacting, look into it a little deeper and see why it's different and think it through and then react.
Yes.
And by react, I don't mean do something rash, but just make your changes based on thinking that process through.
100%.
Well, I would say just for anybody coming into it, just do your research, but don't drag it on too long where you feel like we did, where you didn't do it soon enough. Also look into all the different companies, not just Hyfield, but everywhere. Just make sure that they have what you want to get out of the business, whether it's mentees or mentors, just how to learn the process that they have to offer you. Look at some of their track records, Also for couples, whether it's male, female, male, male, female, female, make sure that it's a good fit for you and your partner, that you can live in a small space
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
for 24/7
Yeah.
and be okay to deal with issues all the time. Always talk to each other, work things out, and
Yeah,
give each other spaces when they need them.
That communication is key, certainly. Yeah.
Oh, it's huge. I know when I first got started in this, one of the things I looked at was there's someone who's asking like, "Hey, me and my wife are thinking about getting this business, and we're just not sure should we do it or not. Need some advice." And one person said, and everybody co-signed it, and I loved it. He said, "Okay, you and your wife for the next week live in your walk-in closet." Sleep in your walk-in closet.
Yeah.
And the guy even said, like, "Well, I don't have a bathroom. I guess we can go to the bathroom." He's like, they were like, "You don't have a bathroom in your truck?" Now, side note, our high performers do have bathrooms in their trucks, but getting in the business, assume you don't. Put down a mattress in your walk-in closet and try to make that work. And that's what the advice they gave me, and I thought it was great. Now, granted, our trucks are a little bigger than walk-in closets, but still, the mentality stands, right? Of like, how do you live in a small space with this person that you love? Because I've been around it long enough to see people fall more in love with each other. I've been around it long enough to see people really embrace the lifestyle, and they love they get to work with their partner, and it's great. I've seen people get divorced over it. I mean, you really have to make sure, hey, this is the right lifestyle. And if it's not, you got to be able to get out. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we want every single team to be successful and be a lifelong independent contractor or maybe an owner operator. And like, that's the trajectory we want people to do. We want to see people grow and get better and more successful in this business. We have a team right now that's becoming fleet owners, and we're very thrilled with it. Like, that's great. I mean, you came to us as independent contractors, you bought a truck, and now you're buying your second and third truck. Like, that's exciting. That is really cool to see that growth. At the end of the day, though, if it's going to cost your relationship or your marriage, get out of the truck.
Yeah.
Leave. Go home, get normal jobs, whatever makes you have your life make sense. Because I get it. Sometimes we love people, but we can't be around them 24/7.
No,
100%.
and you're right there. Sometimes on the weekends, like all summer when we were doing these cookouts, and teams would show up, you'd see the separation go on. You'd see people just gather, and a lot of times, the couples or teammates would be separated. And it just gave them a break, so they would have something new to talk about too when they get back on the truck.
When Melissa and I would get a hotel room occasionally, I made sure the hotel room had a chair.
Yeah.
And Melissa likes to sit in the bed and do what she's doing, and I would go sit in the chair. And just that little bit of separation even was enough. We had more space to kind of spread our wings a little bit and just have our own little space. We were in the same room still, a lot of times, but we had that space. It made sense. We didn't do it very often, but we did other stuff too. So, but it was just having that space every night.
We actually took it a step further. Me and Don would actually have to get 2 separate bedrooms.
Wow.
Yeah, we needed that.
Yeah.
That time.
Yep, you need it sometimes.
Was that at the casinos?
Some of them.
I was just asking.
Yeah. Look, I get it. You got to figure out what that balance is. You got to do what you got to do. I know there was a time, one of my more shameful moments, where Eric and I were driving. We're in New York, like upper New York, Burn Buffalo, and things just came to a head. And I was like, peace. Got a rental car. I drove all the way to Buffalo, slept the night in Buffalo, and was like, all right, I overdid it. Like, this is not what I want. I was a combination of tired and exhausted and angry and just cooped up in a space too long. And once I had a chance to get away from it and breathe, then I was like, no, this is the lifestyle I want. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then I had to make that embarrassing phone call back and be like, yeah, I screwed up. Sorry. And we got everything back together, and it worked out fine. But it's like, knowing when to get that personal time. And it's tough because you feel like, hey, I'm letting my person down because I'm saying I don't want to be around you. And what's more insulting than that? But it's like, no, when you're 24/7 together, you got to have that personal
Gotta have
time.
that
You
space.
got to get away.
Yeah.
You got to have a little bit of break. It doesn't matter if you're friends, if you're lovers, if you're you just met each other just so you could drive in a truck together. I mean, no matter what, you got to have a little
Yeah.
space apart and balancing that. And if you can't find the balance and it just doesn't work, that's fine. We get it. We completely respect your situation and no hard feelings. I always say at least you gave it a go. You know, at least you tried it, and if it didn't work, that's fine. And guess what? We've had people who it didn't work for at all. And a year later, they call us back and say, we want to give it another shot. And that second time around, it does because they know what they're getting into.
They're more prepared.
And they're more prepared, exactly. So all that to say, today's airplane of the week is a Delta 757-200. Now, this is one of my favorite airplanes that they fly, and its years, unfortunately, are getting limited. So this is it's about the size of a 737. So if you've ever flown an airplane that's 3 and 3, like 3 seats and then an aisle and 3 seats, it's about that size, but it's a little bit longer. It has a much further distance. So they usually use these for like transcontinental, like if you're flying from like New York to Los Angeles or Atlanta to San Diego or something, they'll usually put that on this route. These things always run from Atlanta to Orlando. That's almost exclusively what Delta uses. And it's a really cool airplane. I like this a lot. So this thing, they call it like the hot rod of the airplane world. So most airplanes, if you are with me, and you've flown a lot, you know, you sit in your seat, they line up on the runway, they take off, you're kind of pushed in your seat, you climb up for a few minutes, and then they lower the engines down, and then you slowly climb up to 30,000 feet. At some point, they send the cart down with the beverages, and then, you know, like half an hour into your flight, the guy comes over the intercom, the pilot comes over the intercom and says, boom, we've reached our cruising altitude, yada, yada, yada. These airplanes don't do that. They have enough power in their engines that they cruise at climb all the way to your 32,000 feet. They are super fast. They are super powerful, and they're just way overbuilt. I mean, just like a ridiculous amount of overbuilding on an airplane. You don't get that leveling off feeling until you've hit your actual cruising altitude. They're very, very comfortable jets, and they tend to be quite long. Long as far as, like, even when you walk inside, like if you're in one of the back rows, I mean, you have to walk a long ways to get to the very back. I really like these airplanes. They're super robust. I brought it up because last week I talked about a 767 from Boeing that we flew down to Buenos Aires with Jerry and Don.
11-hour flight.
11-hour flight. This one... And the reason I brought that up, rather, was because I was thinking about, we're going to Ecuador for my birthday
Happy
here
birthday.
in May. So it made me think of like flights I've taken to South America, and that's kind of how I got that idea. This is the plane we're taking to South America.
Oh, great.
We are actually flying on a 757-200 down to Ecuador. And again, I've flown this plane a lot, and I'm excited. I'm like, it doesn't have the lay flat seats or anything like that, but we don't need it. It's only a 5.5 hour flight or something like that. So it's a long flight, but it's still not crazy long.
Right. It's not overnight sleep long.
No. And what's crazy is we're flying in Ecuador. It's still in Eastern time zone. I'm not even changing time zones.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
jet lag.
You can't use that jet lag excuse when you get home.
Exactly.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. We'll see. So so I really like this airplane. It's a powerful monster. It takes off like a rocket. There's not many of them left. American Airlines has completely quit using them. United sells a few left, and Delta is by far the largest user of them. These are actually the planes when they get really old. Like, so Delta's got some of these that are over 30 years old. They're in their charter fleet. When Delta flies around like basketball teams and football teams, those are the airplanes they're flying around in. It's a cool little airplane. It's a robust airplane that can do a lot of stuff. It can fly to Europe if they had to. They don't usually do that, but they have flown them to like Iceland before.
Okay.
Or Greenland, both. So for like middle Atlantic flights, they'll do, or Bermuda, they'll use them. But it's a really cool airplane. It's if you get the chance over the next couple of years to fly one, go for it. I think you'll like it. But their days are numbered, unfortunately. Yeah, that's the Boeing 757-200. Again, Delta Airlines, United Airlines are pretty much your only options left to fly them. Anything?
I was going to say thanks for sharing that with us, Patrick.
I was going to test them. I was going to say what kind of engines are on those planes.
Oh, he knows.
Those are Pratt & Whitney's.
Ah, nice.
Yep.
He knows.
Yep. Solid engine. Now, I think United has Rolls-Royce, but Delta mostly is Pratt & Whitney. Yep. That, I think, is all we have. Can you believe it went by that quick?
It did.
Crazy, right? I think the only thing we have to do is remind everybody, July 21st to the 22nd of this year, we're going to be somewhere. What was the name of that place we're going to be at, Vince?
The Allen County War Memorial Coliseum. Let me say it again. The Allen County War Memorial Coliseum.
And that's going to be in Fort Wayne, Indiana, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes, it is. On July 21st, 22nd. I think you already said that.
I
part,
did,
didn't
but
you?
let's get.
Yeah.
I believe it was July 21st and 22nd.
And 22nd, both days.
Yes, and that's going to be Expedite Expo and the Crossroads of America Trucking Show. It's kind of a hybrid show they're doing this year that's going to be kind of cool to do. So it'll be truckload stuff, it'll be Expedite stuff. We are going to be in booth 413, 413. And we are this year, again, as we did last year, sponsoring the world famous Casino Night. Casino Night, for those of you that don't know, you should be listening to our podcast. But anyways, if you don't know, no, I'm kidding. That is going to be a night where they have a huge ballroom. They move all the tables and chairs out of the way, and they install the
more
casino.
tables and chairs.
More tables and chairs, but these are the casino tables. So these are
the fun ones.
poker tables, blackjack tables, 5-card Monte tables,
Craps.
craps tables. I was going to say baguette, but that's not right.
Roulette.
That's the one. Baguette would be a French roll.
Baguette would be a French roll, but
So-
Baccarat would be a French game.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
I don't think it. Don't expect
I don't think
Baccarat.
so.
No.
No.
No slot machine, so Jerry's not happy. It is a lot of fun. Matt and Jamie, you've been there before. What did you think of the casino night?
Great time. It's a great time.
I think so too, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's a cash bar, so bring some money, have a couple drinks, throw down with us. They're going to give you $1,000.
Monopoly
If I
money.
had $1,000, they're going to give you $1,000 of Monopoly money to play with. If you don't gamble and you're like, it's not really for me, go to the roulette table, put $1,000 on black. Let's see what happens. Live a little, get a little crazy, right? Everybody is going to get a wristband when they get in, and the wristbands got some numbers. They're going to give door prizes all night long. It is a lot of fun. I always have a blast. If you want to find me, I'll be at the craps table showing everybody my lack of skill. And I just encourage everybody to show up. The parking, I think, is
$16 for trucks and $8 for cars.
and that's $16 per day, right?
It is $16 per day, but it does say here on the website, I was just reading this on the website itself, $8 for cars, van, pickup trucks, and motorcycles, RVs, straight, and semi-trucks are $16 per day. If you leave the parking area and come back, you will have to pay again. But if you park on Friday and pay your $16 or your $8 and you don't take the truck out until we're done on Saturday, you're only paying the once.
Yeah, I think it's a steal. But
I think so,
anyways,
too.
there's going to be a lot of trucks out there. We always huddle up the Hyfield trucks. I know a few of the carriers. If you're listening, you're like, I'm not with Hyfield. Come anyways, because a lot of these carriers and fleets, they'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's fun to throw down. I mean, there's nothing like walking out of the building and you're walking through the parking lot and there's like, a company that's like grilling steaks for their people or doing whatever. We sponsor a casino night, as we said. On Saturday night, we try to, doesn't always work out, but we try to, weather permitting, have a parking lot party. And that's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
I enjoy those. We usually cater in very high-end catering for that event, I believe.
Last year was pizza,
Yes, last year was
and the year before, I think we had
Taco Bell.
the Taco Bell.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
it's high-end catering.
who doesn't like
And
Taco Bell catering?
We're not our parking lot party is not exclusive Hyfield family.
It's
Our
not.
parking lot party has been in the past. Yeah, it's not Hyfield exclusive. If we're out there having fun, stop by, talk to us. We're not going to try and force you to come join us. We just want to have fun and enjoy our time. So come hang out.
A lot of great conversation.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah,
of great
exactly.
conversation.
Oh, and almost every year there's other fleet owners out there hanging out with us too.
There are.
Like
There are.
listen, expediting's a small niche market in the industry. We all know each other.
Yes.
It's impossible to keep secrets out here.
It truly is.
But it is a very fun family geared environment, and we just have a blast. Yeah, I encourage people to come out and join us if you are in the area. We're going to have a bunch of mentors out there. Jamie and Matt, you'll be out there as mentors. We're going to have several other mentors out there to talk to you both on the Panther side and the FedEx side. We're going to have all of our staff is going to be there, so it's always funny too. You show up and you got like Jimmy sitting over in a corner doing maintenance stuff. This time now he'll have Don with him doing maintenance stuff as well. Yep. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Lots of fun.
I encourage everybody to come out. Jer Bear, do you have anything before we go?
Yes. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Go ahead and ring that bell as well so that way you get notified of new videos whenever they drop. Share the video if you like it. Leave a review if you can. Leave a comment on YouTube or leave a review on your favorite podcasting app that you like to use. And also look us up on Instagram, Facebook, The Outer Belt Podcast, or over on Instagram, _Outer Belt Podcast. You can also find hyfieldtrucking.com for more information for what we do over here at Hyfield and all the things that goes along. Or if you would like to join the Hyfield family, visit hyfieldtrucking.com. That's my spiel.
Cool. And on hyfieldtrucking.com too, we have a chat feature.
We do have a chat feature. You can get on there. Our lovely Melissa, Vince's better half.
Excuse me, we call her Buttermilk.
Buttermilk.
We do call her Buttermilk.
She has joined us over on the marketing/contractor sourcing side, and she is now on there helping me with the chat and doing a wonderful job. We do have Delana as well in contractor sourcing. So lots of people that you can talk to and find out a lot of great information about Hyfield.
Yes, and very good information. You've been building a frequently asked questions side of it as well,
Yep.
and that website's really coming together. It came together originally, but it's just going to be, I always look at these websites and I'm like, how'd they get all that information on there? What made them think of all that?
Yeah.
And boy, we're finding out.
There
It's
you
just
go.
one piece at a time.
It's just like you said earlier when we started the conversation, we're always striving for greatness.
Always.
And the website is right there along with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Matt and Jamie, any final thoughts? No pressure, but here's a little pressure.
Little pressure. I definitely want to say, Jerry, what a great editing job you've been doing. Now understanding what you have to go through with these two. Very, very good job, Jerry. Wow.
I have lots and lots of blackmail footage, as they like to call it.
Yes.
We're not talking about that.
We are. That's being cut out of the podcast.
That's being cut out.
And he can sleep during the video rendering.
Yes.
Oh, no, he got the ultra hyper uplink 9000, so it renders in like 12
renders
seconds.
fast.
No. This is an hour-long podcast, so it does take my MacBook a good 45 minutes to an hour to render. So, and then the upload is ridiculous because my internet sucks.
Well, and the sad thing is you have the best laptop and the best internet, so
That is
that's
the sad
true.
thing. Yeah.
That's
You know?
the best I can get.
Yeah.
hey, you know what? Eventually you'll have the more best.
Yep.
Yep.
Eventually.
I just want to say thank you so much to Matt and Jamie for joining us on the podcast.
Yeah,
you
thank
didn't
you.
have to, and we really appreciate it. It was so much fun talking to y'all. This is what we do when we record, and as you see, I enjoy it. I really do.
It's fun.
I was thinking about that earlier when y'all two were talking to Vince. I kind of got lost in my head for a second, and I was like, wow, this is a lot of fun. I enjoy. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to do this. I'm so thankful for the audience that listens to us and watches us and supports our endeavor here. It really means a lot. At the end of the day, Vince and I were like, hey, let's put together this podcast and let's see what happens. And we want to thank all of y'all for listening. Thank you for participating. Jerry Bear, I want to echo what Matt says. You do a great job.
I appreciate
And we look forward to doing this again, we will see you next week. Oh, I almost forgot. May 13th, we're doing another live. So May 13th, 6 p.m., please join us. Set it on your calendar. Do a reminder an hour before and a day before, as I always do. And come join us May 13th. We're going to be live.
6 p.m. Eastern.
6 p.m.
3
Eastern.
p.m. Pacific.
3 p.m. Pacific, and sometime in between if you're in the between.
Yeah. Or earlier than that if you're in Hawaii.
Yeah, sure. And if you're in China,
Ooh, tomorrow.
we thank you so much for your support. It has been a blast. If you have anything to comment or any ideas that you want to hear about us talk about on the show, you want to hear us rattle off on anything, certainly send that information to us. As Jerry said, the Outer Belt Podcast, leave a comment. We absolutely want to hear what you want us to talk about. This is your show. I keep reiterating it. This is your show. We want to bring you what you want to hear. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and make good decisions.
Jamie, thank you for joining us on the podcast today. We really appreciate it. Don't leave money on the table.
And keep those wheels a turning.
Thanks, Matt.